are listening to Over the Back Fence, a conversation among neighbors, which is a production of Neighborhood Falmouth. Our conversationalists today are Jackie Pratt, Marion Bihari, Grant Willis, Mary Pat McKenzie, and I'm Susan Laux. And our conversation today is about surfing the web. So when you have a little time and you go online, and we're not talking anything kinky here today, people know nothing dicey, but when you spend time online surfing the web, where do you go to? So, or what sort of sucks you in? So, I will start myself and say that I think one of the gateways for me is when I get an e-newsletter from a place, and the public library sends a newsletter, and a lot of the time I think, oh, I don't have time to read this, but then I think, well, okay, maybe I'll just read it for a second, and that's where the trouble begins, because they do various book reviews, which then I think sound kind of interesting. So I click on the books, and a lot of times I end up ordering the book online from the library, and I get in queue for that. And they also have a feature where they can match you up with a book. And that's something they only mentioned it in a couple of their newsletters. So, and I haven't been able to find it again, but you fill out a form about the kinds of books you enjoy reading and a couple of your recent favorites. And then somebody cooks up a list of books you might enjoy. So I've done that, and I've actually read a couple of those books, which have been great. The other place that I go a lot is NPR. I'm a bit of a news head, and of course, the news has been so wild lately that I've been really glued to that. And they had the same thing. They have a newsletter with sub stories to it, and I end up clicking in on those sub stories, and then you get to the bottom of that article, and there are more sub stories, and I can kind of, I guess the last couple I would say Facebook kind of gets me sometimes. I'm not a big Facebook person, but every once in a while I get into Facebook and I start scrolling through. And seems like I had one more. That's all I can think of right now. So anyways, how about you guys? What's your guilty pleasure online? What gets you going? And maybe I would say shoe shopping sometimes. Sorry, I'm a typical woman. Okay, who's up next? Shortbee.com. Okay, Grant, what is Shortbee.com?
Yeah.
Photographs ranging from like the mid 19th century up to like the 1960s. This one is the site. I'm a huge fan of, picking apart old photographs of a street, and then you see somebody leaning out of the top window and they're smoking a cigarette. That kind of fantasy I kind of enjoy. So, yeah, um, the greatest thing is that if you click on the photograph, it jumps it to like 4 times the size.
Oh, wow.
So you can really get into the corner, and the Sharpie, they clean up the photographs from, if they're in bad condition. So you're seeing something like could have been taken yesterday, and it's the docks at New Orleans in 1895.
Wow.
These kids, kids smoking cigarettes themselves and having a good time. So yeah, I tend to wander around that one for a while. They have five per day, but they have
Five what per day?
five
What,
new ones every
Grant,
day.
Wow.
what does Shortbee mean?
Shorpy, they have a picture of him on the website. He's a little kid dressed in what looks like railwayman's clothes and the hat. He was a coal miner. I think he was a breaker boy, where the coal would come out and they'd break it into smaller pieces.
Wow.
Uh, and he disappeared. There are like 3 or 4 pictures of him that apparently somebody took because he was so young, and now he's the namesake of the website.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
That's
there.
great.
Wow.
So there you go.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, neither, and I just happened to blunder into it, and now I go every day.
Nice.
Wow.
It is a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any others, Grant?
Um, let's see. Justin Bieber. No, no, just kidding. No, that's the only one.
Oh, Shorpy.com. I'm gonna have to look
Shorpy.com.
at that.
Yeah, I wrote it down already.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's why I made the big magic
Oh,
mark.
I love it. Thank you. Are you a photographer?
No, I wish I were. And as I say, that part of it is like they will have all the Farm Security Administration, the government photographs, they sent them out during the Depression to take pictures of farm families and things like
wow.
that. And sometimes all 5 of the ones for that day will be from like 1940 or 41.
Wow.
And you can compare them back and forth, people at the gas station and so forth. So it's a source of real pleasure for me. So there you go.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, but I don't have any other favorites except
Well,
Katie.
thanks for turning us on to it.
Yeah.
Who else?
Well,
Okay, Marion.
mine are not very exciting. Uh, one of my favorite sites to go to for finding out about medical issues is Mayo Clinic. I don't know if anybody else has gone to that. They're really very good. They have information about medications, all different kinds of diseases, symptoms. And so that's an interesting one for me. So if I have any kind of question, that's the first one I go to. Um, the other one, I like living plants, and I find it a desert here. So I have a couple of plant sites that I go to see what they have and if I can order anything. When I lived in New York, I lived about a half a mile from a very, very large nursery, and it had probably 10 different greenhouses. You could buy anything you want there. You can't find that here. So I enjoy going through those. And, I have ordered some things. Unfortunately, some don't look great when they get here, others look good, but not very exciting. But those are two of the things besides going on Amazon and buying and whatever that, I do that all the time. But these are two other things that I seem to lead to, not on a daily basis, but fairly often.
So I'm curious about whether what that's like getting plants, ordering plants online. I mean, I guess we've all gotten flowers delivered to our houses.
Right.
When-
Well, most of these places are fairly reputable. And I must say that I did order something recently and I expected the plant to be this big and it was this big. So I was a little disappointed in that, but I have ordered some things online and they come usually very, very well packed. And if something is wrong, they will refund your money or send another plant.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway,
Good.
yeah.
What's the
Oh, well, thank-
website? What's the website? Do you know?
I would have to look it up because I have it written down, but it's not one that I remember. I just click on it.
Plants
There's
and-
there's a couple in Florida and there are a couple in California.
Nice. So it's
I'll-
not
And Connecticut is filled with them too, like White Flower Farm.
our farm. I was gonna.
They're all plant mail order.
Right. Have you done any of that, Mary Pat?
Oh, a lot of it. I hardly ever buy anything in person. I do a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
And you're right, it comes small, very small, like,
Right.
that big.
Yes.
They assume that it's a safer way to ship it and it will survive better and grow in the land.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they carry things that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's why I'm interested in that.
There's some wildflower ones that are wonderful, really it's a great rabbit hole to fall down.
Oh, okay.
The wildflowers are not seeds. They really are plants.
They're plants. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
Mary
can get
Pat.
anything online.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So Mary Pat, how about you?
Well, sort of on the same line, the Garden Conservancy does garden tours, and then they will have other ones recommended. And it's the same with the New York Horticultural Society, which when we lived in New Jersey, I used to be a member of. And so you can quite literally tour gardens in the Midwest, in England, in all over the world, which unfortunately means like 5 hours could pass before you lift your head up and go, oh, yeah, I was going to go to the grocery store.
See you tomorrow.
It's, it's like, please don't anybody bother me. I'm in the midst of this garden tour.
Like gardening porn or something, garden porn.
It is. It really is. And I got hooked on it last spring because, garden, like there were no flower shows. The Philadelphia Flower Show was closed and Boston was closed. I mean, everything was shut down. And so they started putting all these things online. And you could visit gardens every day for 5 hours if you wanted to.
Nice.
All over the world, truly. The Brits are the best at it. So the Chelsea Flower Show was virtual last year. And then they started setting up other garden tours of gardens that had people participate in the Chelsea Flower Show. Same in Philadelphia. I mean, it's fabulous. And then then you look at your weeds outside.
Not
Right.
the same. So like, for a newbie, like what's a good starter site?
I would say the Chelsea Flower Show site is great. And it's quite literally the Chelsea Flower Show. You go on, and then it directs you to a whole bunch of other ones. In the United States, the Garden Conservancy is a wonderful one. And you just Google, it'll pop up, and it will also send you to other things. So there was a really wonderful one, and I think they still do it. I haven't looked lately. In Michigan, one of those islands in the Great Lakes. And it was a young couple, and they have this fabulous garden, and they update every month. So that's like, wow, it's truly amazing. And they show that it could be just looking at the plants with somebody explaining them, or it's hands-on. They show you how to repot, or how to plant a tree or whatever. And you don't get dirty, and it's great. It's
You remind me that one of our neighborhood Falmouth members has at his home a garden, or the plantings around his home are such that there is something in bloom like 11 months of the year. And
wow.
it's and I've seen bits of it before, and I make him talk about it all the time to me. But I just think that's what I would love too, is to know how to do that, because when you've not had something blooming around, like that's part of why spring is just so like amazing every year, because it's like, oh my God, you're back. Love this.
Yeah, forsythia, the first sign of spring, basically. It's just breathtaking.
Right.
Nice.
But no, I really do think these garden sites it's a whole other world. And you don't even, here's the cool thing. You might feel inspired and feel like, oh, I'd like to do that. But you don't feel guilty that you can't do it either. It just lets you enjoy it. And there's like no guilt whatsoever about the fact that you didn't rush out and start digging in the dirt.
Right.
But, and you might not.
Yeah.
These are
I wrote that down.
Guilty.
So after we get off here, I'm gonna go take a look.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I wanted to, I was glad you mentioned White Flower Farm. Because if I'm sending my daughter a gift, she loves just green houseplants and she likes lavender. And so she's, you know,
Ah.
it's a favorite gift site for me. And she's picky and it's hard to buy for her. So I don't know where she'd get that kind of an attitude, but at any rate,
Sometimes apples don't fall far from the tree.
yeah, that's true.
Good nose.
I love it. So how about you, Jackie? Where do you
Well-
go when you go online?
The first thing I do is go to my email because I have I have a friend from back when I was in law school, one of my study partners who lives in Minnesota, up north Minnesota, and he's always got great pictures of the lakes and a lot of snow pictures and stuff. So I always like to check out if he's done something a couple of times a week. My brother-in-law combs Facebook, and so he will send me funny stuff because he thinks that he needs to keep my spirits up. Right? So, at any rate, we you know, so I always check there, and then I go to my daughter and son-in-law keep an album in the cloud of my grandchild, and you guys probably saw the newspaper article. That I can spend hours going back through some of the other videos, you know, comparing where she is now to where she was. She's bright, and it's fun to watch her parents get frustrated. That's awful. but it's trying their very, very best to keep up with this very smart child. So they've had to change how they handle they got these nice baby gates, and it was probably 6 months ago when she figured out how to open those. So now they've got something that looks like a plastic bike lock on over the housing, so she can't get the and she hasn't figured out the combination yet, and you have to push a button in, and then it's a very simple combination, but she's about to turn 2. She hasn't quite figured that out yet, but she's working on it.
I'm sure.
but I can get lost for a long time. I like MSNBC, and so I tend to go to their website, and because the thing is that they're particular people that I like on there. I like Rachel Maddow, which I think a lot of people find her, and, you know, informative, and she seems to do a lot of research. And I you know, I tend to go there, check out, because they tend to tell you a little bit more than, and they'll have more experts, you know, and that kind of thing. And I'm trying to think where else I go online. I don't know. I can spend hours and then realize that all I know is, you know, is what was going on last night, and but I don't particularly care for TV, so I tend not to use the computer.
You know, you're making me flash back to a time talking with you years ago, and I'm not going to get it quite right, but it was like the Patriot Act or something, and we were talking about current events or something, and you were like, have you read the Patriot Act? I've read the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act says, you know, it's 64 pages and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, holy smokes, you've read the Patriot Act? And, you know, or it was like inflate gate or deflate gate, or, you know, the Tom Brady football thing.
Yeah.
I've read that, you know, and I was like, you've read that? You know, it's not just read about it, you've read it. And
He's a lawyer.
kind of impressed me that way.
I do that. It drives my brother nuts. especially since he was for a little while, he was a Trumper. He may still be, but he's not telling me that anymore. He got really tired.
That's
But
great.
Jackie, wouldn't you say that's your law school training?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to know what's behind. I've got to see it for myself. I've got to see what's behind things. Check things out. So yeah,
I love
that's
it.
What about you, Grant? Do you look at the whole documents?
No, if they have, sometimes you'll see a court case put up online with like 50 pages. I'll read down till I know who the dramatis personae are and what it's about. But then I generally don't get into the, way at the end, the really fine print. I'm even bored by that.
Yeah.
I never liked fine print. I always made my letters big.
I'll stick with gardens.
Yeah, or old photos.
I love it. Well, why don't we wrap this up, and thank you all for participating. And if you are watching at home and you want to tell us what you do when you go online, again, within reason. And yeah, would love to hear from you. This is Over the Back Fence, a conversation among neighbors and friends. And we hope we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
bye bye.